Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mountainside Podcast. Our guest for this episode is Kevin McDonald. He's a former United States Marine Corps sniper who now spends his time as a firearms instructor at Bristol Cone Shooting, Training, and Retail Center. Kevin is a great guy. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. We talked about a lot of different things, from edge weapon training to medical combatives classes that he teaches, tactical pistol, long-range pistol, and much more. Kevin's a great guy. I really enjoyed this episode, and I hope you enjoy the listen. Welcome, Kevin.
How's it going, man?
I'm doing great. How are you, brother?
Great.
Good, man. What's been happening? You've been staying busy with just life and
Yeah, exactly. My wife and I actually just bought a house, so it's been a whole bunch of projects with that and stuff. So, been enjoying it.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
man. First home or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, get ready, man. I don't know if you bought a fixer upper, but it's just like it just keeps building. It never ends, man.
Yeah.
It's the way to go. For sure. Where are you guys? Are you guys in Denver? Or?
We're up in Henderson, actually, so northeast of Thornton area.
Yeah.
Basically Kansas. So.
Yeah. But you're still close to the front range.
Yeah,
I mean, you can still pop into the mountains
it's
pretty easy.
Perfect. It's like the best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks is that commute coming into Denver, right?
Yeah.
That really blows.
It's not great.
Right. Well, awesome, man. I'm excited to have you here. I'm just getting back from Nashville, so I'm excited to be back in Colorado.
Nice.
I had to go spend a week there, and it was crazy there. I mean, people not wearing masks, like just Broadway. Have you ever been to Nashville?
I haven't.
It's insane, man.
Yeah.
It's like, have you ever been to Louisiana?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a lot like Bourbon Street Broadway can be. So on like a Friday or Saturday night, it gets pretty wild.
Dang.
A lot of those places were still open. So it was
Yeah.
like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, like go party. No, don't do it.
Right.
So I'm really glad to just be back here in the mountains and back in our studio.
That's awesome.
But man, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You do all kinds of different training on firearms.
Yep.
From our friends down at Bristol Cone. And we're going to get heavily into that. But before we dive into that, you have an extensive military background, and I'd love to hear about some of that and where you've spent some time and what you've been trained in, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2014, kind of a late bloomer there. And then I'm from the East Coast, from Pennsylvania, and
Where in Pennsylvania?
Bucks County.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm from Warminster.
Oh my gosh.
Small world.
That's awesome.
Jeremy, you want to move into the host seat for this one?
we're gonna just talk about Steak and Hoagie Factory.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wawa.
Okay, wait a minute.
And Wawa.
Yeah.
I know about Wawas, but what the hell is a steak and hoagie factory?
It's just the Bucks County 3 a.m.
Okay.
Spot to get
Greasy spoons type
get
spot?
the greasiest. It's good. I was just back home last month, and it was the first thing that we did. It was pretty.
Is it like a Philly cheesesteak or what?
Kind of. It's its own. It's its own thing, kind of. But it was, of course, the first thing that we went and hit that in Primos, and it was just it was a Bucks County.
So what you do there, huh?
That's what you do. You go and eat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where are you specifically? Where?
So I'm from Sellersville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like right outside of Quakertown.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in Colmar.
Nice.
So that was, dude, too funny.
That's
All right.
Small world.
Right.
Everybody's moving to Colorado from PA, man.
Yeah, seriously.
Crazy.
I know Brian too.
Yeah,
He
Brian.
dragged
We've
us all
had
out.
Jack Shirk, right?
Yep.
Shout out to Jack and Brian Clark, and then I got my co-host Jeremy here, or co-producer, whatever you're dubbed, my buddy.
Just, on the other end. That's
Right.
Right.
And who else have we had on from PA? We've had a couple. I don't know.
We're missing one more.
You have to think back.
There's just so many of them.
There is.
Honestly.
There's a ton. But that's awesome, man. I like you guys are all good people, man.
I
Like,
appreciate that. Well,
every one of them.
To be determined.
Right. Yeah, we'll see after your stories.
Right, yeah.
That's awesome, man. But I'm sorry, back to your military background, but we had to get, or your background. We had to get that out for a minute.
No worries at all. I was went to boot camp on the East Coast, Paris Island, and then infantry training on the East Coast as well, up in Camp Geiger or Camp Lejeune, basically the same thing. And then I was fully anticipating being stationed on the East Coast, and then I got orders to California. And I was like, oh, man, all right, Mom, Dad, hey, I'm moving across the country. This is super awesome, and quite honestly, probably the very best duty station you could get as a Marine is Pendleton, right? Just like 5 minutes from the beach, surfing lifestyle. You're out and you just like surf town. It's super cool.
It's awesome. It's right there at Oceanside, right? Pretty much. Yeah, I've spent a ton of time down in Southern California, and I actually lived in Southern California for a bit, and have a lot of friends that are stationed down there too.
What part did you live in?
I lived in Hermosa Beach, so a little bit further north up by LA.
Gotcha.
But I used to tour with rock bands, and when I first got my start with rock bands, we spent a ton of time in San Diego.
Nice.
Just because they were reggae rock, kind of that sort of vibe.
There you go. Yeah.
We would go there and hang out for a couple weeks, play shows,
that's cool.
Party, try to surf. I was never really good at it.
Same here, man.
But yeah, it was fun, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I got my first duty station at 2-5, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. And so we were right on the north end of Pendleton there. And so my initial I went in just like 03, open contract, infantry something. And then when I got to infantry training, they were like, hey, do you want to be a weapons MOS and military occupational specialty? And I was like, what's that? And they were like, oh, it's more elite, like it's harder to do. And I was like, that sounds fun. I'll do that. So I became a machine gunner, and not harder by any means. We're widely known as rock eaters, so it's very it was just like hey, you carry heavier things and you're tall, so go for it. So all right, cool. So yeah, I became a machine gunner, and I loved it, man. It was awesome. It was a ton of fun. So 2-5 was on rotation with the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit at that time. So I spent probably 12 months of a workup. I had gotten with that unit right as they came back from a deployment. So we spent 12 months working up to the next one, and then shipped out to good old Okinawa, Japan.
Oh, no shit. Another awesome spot, man.
Yeah. It was cool. It was like it's an island. So if you actually get off the base, it's kind of fun to explore around there. But we hit Australia, Guam, and then this little island called Saipan had gotten wrecked by a typhoon. So we went over there for like some humanitarian aid stuff, just churning up fresh water for them because they're all their like power was knocked out and everything. We did a lot of landscaping and whatnot. So
crazy, man! I can't imagine getting hit by one of those tsunamis. That's got to be, to me, that's like one of the worst natural disasters there could be.
Yeah, that was. I mean, they like luckily just got a lot of rain, but it knocked down a bunch of stuff on their island, and they just were kind of isolated. So we were able to help them out a little bit, which was really cool. And then when we were in Australia, we were doing some training, some multinational training with the Aussies down there, which was a ton of fun. And then we got back to Okinawa and flew out to the Philippines and did some training with the Filipino Marines while we were there, and that was really cool too. It's hot, but it was cool. Yeah. So came back. Came back to Okinawa, and it was a week after we got back from the Philippines. Two of my friends were like, "Hey, we're trying out we're running the sniper indoc, we're trying out to be in the sniper platoon. Do you want to run it with us?" And I was like, "Sure." I don't know. Like we all had freaking malaria coming back from the Philippines, so we're just like all sick and lost a bunch of weight and stuff. And I was like, what's more misery? So, I tried out for the sniper platoon.
Super intense school though, right? For people that are listening that don't know anything about military training or anything like that. And I only know from reading books and talking to friends like you, but it's pretty intense, right? I mean, they pretty much run you ragged, round the clock. They do, what is the evasion training? They do all that, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah. So initially, and I don't know how many people know this, but you have to try out to just get into the platoon, And then if you make it in the platoon, you become a pig, which is a professionally instructed gunman. And then if you go to school and make it through school, the Scout Sniper basic course, then you become a hog, which is a hunter of gunmen. That's their like designation, right? And then you actually get the occupational specialty designator of 0317 nowadays. It used to be 8541 back in the day. But yeah, if you graduate school, that becomes your secondary or I guess secondary MOS. Okay. So just in Okinawa, I was just trying out to be in the platoon. So it was like an organic haze fest basically within the platoon there. So they ran, ours was 8 days long, and we basically just they tested us on everything infantry knowledge to get into the platoon. I think we started with like maybe 44 or 45 guys, and then after people dropping requests throughout the entire process, and there's not much sleep, and it was really physical, but there was also like at the end of the night you had to like go home and write an essay in the 4 hours of sleep that you were supposed to be getting, and then come back the next morning and like present your essay and stuff like that. So
what was harder, the mental aspect of it or the physical, you think, or just both?
It's both. It's a combination, because like every person that made it to the end met Jesus at some point through that whole in-doc process,
right?
And so it takes it out of you. If you can continue physically, then that's all it takes is the mental part of it. But there's just a lot of like, do I really want to do this? And then that looming like, you can quit any time kind of thing, So it was really cool to end. We ended with 12 people out of the 44 or 45 that started.
Did your buddies make it through? The ones that talked you into going?
Yeah. So they were the ones. They made it to the 12, but then they only accepted 8 of us out of the 12 that made it. So one of my guys didn't make it, but the other ones and myself, we got a chance to get into the platoon. So that was pretty awesome.
So wait, did they make you write that essay like right after you get the shit kicked out of you?
Yeah. So there was like a personal like biography that we had to write one night, and then there was I forget what the other essay was about, but there was like 2 or 3 different essays throughout the 8 days where it was like, once you go back, you're on your own time. We probably had like 4 to 6 hours each night to actually get sleep once we were cut. But then you have to write the essay, and you have to readjust your gear, repack your pack, things like that. And then you sleep like maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then you come back the next day.
Do you still have it?
The pack or the essay?
No, the essay.
No.
That'd be interesting to go back and read.
It would be awful, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, that's so cool.
Just like, like lines where I dozed off and like scribbled through the rest of the essay. It was awesome though. I mean, it was like they really took into consideration all aspects of what it requires of you, and it wasn't, a lot of people show up to these indocs thinking like, oh, they're going to teach me how to do sniper stuff, and like I'm going to basically be a sniper when I end my indoc. And it's like, no, they're making sure that you're just
they're vetting you first. Yeah,
just making sure you're
see
like
if you
competent.
can hack it.
Yeah, right. So that was really cool. It was a hellish process, but it was awesome.
Yeah. Especially for somebody like you that's coming from a machine gun to a precision weapon, right?
Right.
So which one's funner to shoot?
Oh, well, it depends what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
I mean, if you're just like rolling up on a gun, 240 Bravo's way more fun to shoot, because you can just blast 100 round belts, or if you link them together, as many as you want. In training, I think one of our instructors did like a 1200 round belt, just like straight up, like it was awesome. But yeah, I mean, it depends.
I mean, how far can you go before you start smoking barrels and stuff?
There's like 3 to 5 criteria for like when you do barrel changes. And so it's like long continuous burst, every 2 minutes or every 1 minute on a cyclic rate, 2 minutes on a sustained rate. And then, I forget what the other one is, but I'm going to get a lot of hate from my machine gunners. But yeah, it comes with 2 barrels, so you can just swap them out and then let the other one cool down maybe a little bit before you slap that back on there. So yeah, it's fun though. That's
awesome, man.
The old 240 Bravo.
240 Bravo.
Yeah. So I was in a line company. I was an echo company. So it was like that was the gun that I was using, right? It was a medium machine gun. And then if you're in a weapons company, you're into like the Madus, the 50 cal, and then Mark 19s, things like that. So yeah, that was my pride and joy. Was
it sounds fun, man.
It's a lot.
Sounds
of fun.
like a lot of fun.
So yeah, 30 pound piece of metal.
Until you have to start carrying it around, right?
Yeah.
Turns boys into men, I would imagine, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you go through all this training.
Yeah.
You go through sniper school.
Yep.
Do you deploy at any point? Where do you know?
Okay. So nowhere crazy. So I was in. So 2.5 is the most decorated battalion in the Marine Corps, and I was probably in the era of the least decorated Marines that it produced. So I went back on another deployment to Okinawa. We just did another 31st MU. We trained in Thailand for a while. It was really cool because we got to work with the Thai Recon and the South Korean Recon Marines there. And so that was a really cool event, but nowhere serious, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good thing, man. I mean, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and that's just it. You're still serving your country, whether you're serving lunch trays at Fort Bragg or wherever, right? I mean, it's still the same to me. So yeah, we appreciate your service, man. But let's get into what do you do now? I know you do executive protection now, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a part-time thing, but you're also a firearms instructor.
Yep.
Can you dive into a little bit about what you do as far as, or what you can speak on as far as executive protection?
Yeah.
Like what type of services do you offer, and are you carrying a gun during that?
Sometimes.
So depends on the case.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So recently there was an incident in Denver where a guy was doing some executive protection and was unlicensed, and he ended up killing someone. So getting your plainclothes endorsement for executive protection gigs has been extremely difficult lately for the city and county of Denver. So
sure.
We do close protection. We do events, things like that, with the security company that I work for, and it runs the gambit. Like you can just come to us with a problem, and we'll most likely have a solution for you. Whether that's you need to travel, you need just an escort from point A to point B, you need somebody to watch your house, you need I don't know, back in the day we were working weddings and quinceañeras and stuff like that. So,
quinceañeras go hard, bro.
Yeah, dude. A lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
But I mean it whatever the client needs that application for, we can usually provide services for it. So
awesome. Have you ever found yourself in a hairy situation during those?
Fortunately, nothing that required any escalation of force.
Yeah.
There's definitely been, we've done some events with outspoken political figures, and that's just worrying about people protesting and
especially nowadays,
all
right?
the death threats that they get every day. So all those events fortunately ran very smoothly, but there's
it can happen at
any
time, right?
Yeah. So we try to plan for as much as we can and stay fluid through whatever else. Yeah.
And is that? I mean, are you gone for weeks at a time when you're doing that, or is it primarily
that's
staying in town?
Not right now. Yeah, we usually stay in town, at least for where we're at right now with our company. I'm more than happy to do that kind of stuff. We haven't had the opportunity yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then in your spare time,
when
you do have any, you're at Bristol Cone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Shout out to Bristol Cone. Shout out to Brian Clark. He's the one that set this up too, to get you in here. I'm super excited, to have them in our corner. It's a great shop, and I can't speak, highly enough about them as people too, that I know them. They're part of the community up here where I live, and just good people. And for people that don't know, Bristol Cone, hands down, is the nicest shooting range.
It's legit.
Service, training, all that sort of stuff. That's the spot to go, in my opinion.
So I started shooting there when I lived in Lakewood a while back, and I was going there every now and then, and I like had an encounter with somebody on retail, and I was like, I like that guy, like he's not just like he's not just like a nice retail guy. He's like, I would probably be friends with him, And so I was like, went over to the range counter and inquired. I was like, are you guys hiring right now? And they were like, well, yeah, sure. Here's the application or whatever. So I applied for a job there because I was like, this is such a great place to shoot at. And one of the big things for me was like, a lot of ranges don't let you draw from the holster. And so, to try and become more proficient with your firearm skills, like you need to kind of push your limits a little bit and test things in a real environment. And so if you're like not allowed to draw from your holster, dry fire is great, but I would like
in a real life situation, I would like to be able
to do that on a live range, and get reps on that kind of stuff. So, that was a big thing for me, realizing that they like kind of took training a little more seriously there. And so I applied for a job, and I was working as a range officer for a while, and then kind of worked my way into the training side of things.
Nice. So what all do you teach there? I know you teach a multitude of different things, right? Or different courses. Mm-hmm. Can we just kind of go through them step by step? Yeah. And, for our listeners, let's dumb it down for people that don't know. And
for sure.
I'm one of those people. I've never taken a firearms tactical course, I guess you could say, right? Yeah. Like taking a few safety courses or whatnot. But other than that.
It's funny. You were saying that you went in there and you were like, oh, I could be friends with this guy. Travis taught me. I took a class with him, and I was like, dude, does this guy want to go get beers afterward?
Like, for real, yeah.
Dude, fucking cool dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, good people over there.
I think he's a Marine too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was just like, this place rules, and fucking going back for sure.
Yeah. No, Travis is awesome. I love that guy.
Are there guns on the shelf right now?
Wild, dude.
Hardly.
I was just down there hardly. It's insane.
Yeah, it's a little wild. We've just been getting smoked with on a retail side for
this has got to be a banner year for toilet paper and guns, man. Hands down, there's probably never been a better year for firearms, ammunition.
That's what
and
my bathroom
paper,
looks
man.
like.
I
have all the ammunition and toilet paper in my bathroom.
Yeah. So some of the courses that I teach at Bristlecone, I teach the TAC series, the tactical pistol series. There's a TAC rifle series, but that's Travis's thing, so I don't really step on his toes on that. So TAC pistol runs. We basically work on, TAC 1 goes into grip and stance, draw, and dynamic presentation, and then we talk about some off-X movement and like multiple round engagements or some recoil management stuff. And that's like the baseline fundamental of kind of where we start. We want to make sure that everyone's on the same page with understanding an efficient process to get your gun out of the holster, and also keeping in mind that like the majority of your shooting experience has been standing on 2 feet without moving. And if you do draw, you draw and fire and just present and fire your firearm, right? But do you really want to stay static when you're drawing your firearm if somebody's shooting at you?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Especially broadside, right?
Right. Yeah. So I don't like to get into tactics because it's like everybody's got their own opinion on it, and there's
a bunch of hokey shit out there too, man. If you look on YouTube, I've seen some stuff where I'm like, this does not make any fucking sense.
But if you can find the right resources on YouTube, there's some good educational material out there, but it's like I hate diving down that rabbit hole because it's like, I'll tell you one way in my experience of how I've done things in the past, and somebody else brings this up, X, Y, and Z situation. I'm like, well, yep, that could work too.
Right.
So take my advice or not. It's your life, bro.
But typically, if you're getting shot at,
movement is kind of a non-negotiable thing unless you're moving from cover, which then that wouldn't make sense. But
you're looking for cover. Right. You're probably going to be crouched. You might even be laying down, right?
Potentially, yeah. Who knows? Situation dictates. Right. My least favorite saying.
Right.
So TAC 1, we cover what I believe to be, it's not like basic in a sense that it's easy, but it's foundational. It's foundational in nature. So we want to make sure that everybody kind of gets on the same page, and I talked briefly about the dynamic presentation, right? And you're not always going to have like a nice set draw and hit extension presentation, right? Sometimes you might be shooting from retention, right here, from the hip. And sometimes you might be shooting just from your workspace or that high compressed ready position. So understanding that there's not like one solution to the problem is kind of where we start. And then I go over, it progresses at an exponential rate of just like information. We talk about reloads and malfunctions, the use of cover, and single-handed manipulation in TAC 2. We do moving and shooting, so simultaneous, right? The TAC 1 was moving to shoot. TAC 3 is moving and shooting. We cover multiple target engagement, and then we also cover shooting from attention, so that drawing and like the hip fire, I guess, if you will. And then finally we work on some buddy team movement. And that one's a little spicy.
Hopefully you got a buddy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A good buddy
that
won't shoot you in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about the TAC series, and that's what I love about the facility that we have is like, we don't have a ton of space. All these classes are conducted in a downrange environment forward of that red firing line, right? Like nobody ever goes down there because usually it's during business hours and you'd get shot. So, we conduct all this forward of the red firing line, and so there's a lot of maneuvering going on. There's a lot of just like getting used to hot brass hitting you in the face from your partner, and being able to deal with that, which adds a little bit of chaos to your environment.
Sure.
But stress inoculation is extremely important in my opinion. So buddy team movement, when we get there, we've got people that are maneuvering in front of each other, and still people are behind someone and still engaging targets downrange. And there's set rules and like safety features that we have in place, so obviously nobody gets shot. But there's things that you need to understand before you can do that, right? There's like you have your 15-degree rule of like making sure that you're offset enough. If somebody goes within a certain space, you have to stop shooting.
Fire
right.
zone. Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, there was when we were doing training for this stuff,
and that's why you guys have range officers just standing back watching those things.
Oh, we literally were up on those guys. We run with them. Yeah, so it's like 100% of our attention is like we have two range officers, two guys moving at the same time, and we're like on their ass the whole way up. And because we're trying to get exposure to this environment without just being like, go forth and prosper. Hopefully you don't die.
Right.
Like that's not good.
It's not a good business motto, right?
I wouldn't be in my job position very long after
that. And I think some of the cool stuff that you guys do down there too is I've seen, and I'd love to come take some of these courses, but it'll be situational stuff. Like you'll set up a living room, you're sitting on your couch, and all of a sudden you have an intruder or stuff like that. Stuff that is going to catch you off guard, right?
Yeah, the React class.
Yeah,
that thing's super cool. There's nothing quite like that's it's hard to achieve is like the randomness and chaos of what you might encounter. Sure. Like I can set up a USPSA style drill with a defensive mindset involved and say like, hey, this is the drill, and I'll try to add as much chaos as possible, but you still know the drill before you conduct it, and it may jam you up a little bit. Like you got to think about reload and use of cover, and you got to think about your target discrimination and whatnot, but there's only so many.
And just to be clear with this too, you guys aren't always using live rounds. You're using like
simunitions. Yeah, exactly. So for the for the React class specifically, that's exactly right. So we have basically like paintballs on steroids that are fired out of a real gun, and it's in a safe manner. But there's a pain aspect of that, right? There's like a fear of getting not injured, hurt, and so that's the great thing about the React class, right? It's all situational. Like you walk into a situation and have to assess it, rather than me telling you like, this is how you're going to deal with this situation. Hope you execute it well, And then on top of that,
what are some of those different situations? I explained the living room, but I know that there's a multitude of different stuff.
It's limited by your imagination, or the instructor's imagination, which they have some good imaginations. So we've got, like when I was doing some of those courses, we were doing like carjacking scenarios where, you'd have like
super common, right?
Two guys coming up and you've got a flat tire. Like you have a flat tire going into this situation, and then somebody comes up and they look like they're trying to help you, and then they start going through your car on the other side, and you're like, what are you doing? And then now another random guy comes up and he's like, hey, give me your keys, give me your cash, all this stuff. And like, how would you deal with that? you know, or you have the classic active shooter, right? Or maybe it's a twist where you have like a guy that shot somebody, ran in the door and said, there's an active shooter out there, but he's actually the bad guy, you know? So, you know, you can skew these situations as much as you want to like throw people's OODA loop off. And it just runs the gamut, man. You can just get as creative as you want.
I think the closest or the craziest thing that I've ever experienced firsthand, and it actually wasn't even me, I was a second party to this. We were in Rio de Janeiro, and we stayed at this hotel that we always stayed at. It's a rock and roll hotel. It's on the beach. It's got its own security. It's all fenced in. It's a little bit out of the cut of like Copacabana. It's up on the hill. And being young and dumb, we were like, come on, let's go down to Copacabana Beach and go hang out, drink coconuts, whatever, hang out on the beach, you know, for the rest of the day. And one of our buddies wanted to FaceTime his family or his girlfriend or whatever it was at the time. So it's a long, like 2-lane windy road down to Copacabana from that hotel specifically. And we all hopped in a cab, took off down. There's always traffic going into Copacabana. Well, he went into a cab by himself to come meet up with us maybe a half an hour later or something. And these guys on dirt bikes with Uzis, two dirt bikes, 2 guys on the back, they just went car to car. And they stopped.
Yeah.
Stuck that. I mean, they took everything: his flip flops, cell phone, all that sort of thing. You know, and I'm not saying he would be carrying a gun, but that's crazy, dude. You never know, like when something like that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
He got down there. Luckily, he found us.
That's wild.
But they literally took his shoes, everything, his shirt. Like he had a Billabong shirt on or something, so they stole that. Like, just crazy shit.
That's scary,
you know?
man. I mean, because they're, you know, barring just like not being in that situation at all, or like trying not to get in that situation, there's not a whole lot you can do about that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's tough, man. There's a lot of case studies of like, you know, in Mexico and things like that where that kind of stuff happens. Like the street crime on mopeds and dirt bikes is. Yeah.
They know what they're doing,
know what
man.
they're doing. Yeah,
for
100%.
sure. But in the U.S., you get the random one guy that typically, you know, a lot of the time, right?
Yeah. That reminded me, Bobby, there was the Mercedes F1 team was robbed at gunpoint on motorcycles going to the track in Sao Paulo.
Yeah. Dude, all those cities are, I mean, you get just a couple blocks off of that main cut, and it is poverty, man.
Yeah.
You think them just going to that track and then stuck in traffic and motorcycles roll up with guns, and there was no shootings, no nothing like that. I mean, they all know how to be professional. And
yeah, and you go tell the police, like he went and found a police officer or whatever.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they were like, whatever, dude.
Sorry,
like,
bud.
Do you know where you are?
Do you know where you are? Yeah,
you better give me some more money or you're going to...
Right,
Did they leave anything?
You better find some money
Did
someplace.
you just try to punch me?
Right. Yeah, no, I've had some crazy shit happen in Mexico too, and you know, it puts it in perspective being in different countries, but yeah, no, I think it's great what you guys are doing there. You guys, what are some of the other courses that you teach? You teach some medical combative stuff, right? Too.
Yeah. So that's more so on the with my security company. So I teach individual first aid kit training. We go over just like high trauma first aid, right? How to use tourniquets, chest seals, combat gauze, and pressure dressings, right? We go over some CPR stuff. I'm not certified to like give CPR certs, but we cover it so people know at least like, you know, what they're doing. So through our onboarding process with our security company, we get all of our guards, you know, before they hit the streets, they go through a 3-day initial employee training. So they have like verbal judo, right? You know, how to de-escalate situations, how to understand the force continuum of escalation, de-escalation of force. And then we talk about firearms handling and medical stuff, report writing, all the relevant information for like being a competent security guard, right? Which, you know, it's super frustrating for me to see some companies out there. They like put a product on the street. Usually companies with like a high turnover rate. They just like get somebody, throw them on a job, and it's like, do you know what you're doing? Like, and that bothers me, right? Because
I think those people should be paid more, honestly, man, because you're going to get a better quality of person, man.
I agree.
I see it firsthand in the concert industry, you know, coming up in that. A lot of those, you know, security staff and stuff like that, half the time they're not even doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're watching the concert or whatever.
Right.
You know, like used to drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But
so when I was in the Marines, I went through the TCCC course, the Tactical Combat Casualty Care. It's a tongue twister. I went through that course, and it was badass. Like we learned a ton of information and like really got into the nitty gritty. And the corpsman for our platoon, or one of the corpsmen for our platoon, was my roommate for our second deployment. So I was always picking his brain on medical stuff, and that's a big interest of mine. I was in the Boy Scouts, and so things like that. But so I teach medical stuff for them, and then I also do some combatives training. It's not like any sort of discipline really. We cover jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, some wrestling, catch wrestling, and judo and aikido. It's not, it's just a melting pot of whatever works.
Sure.
Right. We have this thing on Wednesday nights that we do. It's called Fight Lab. We show up, and the chief instructor that we have at the security company, he instructs all these classes, and he teaches this stuff, and he's like, all right, here's the technique. Now, like, get aggressive with each other and see if it works,
Sure. So it's like an open mat type situation, right?
Yeah. And there's sometimes there's like a workout structure aspect to it. Sometimes there's, like we do.
Are you guys using any sort of trainers, like training pistols or the dummy pistols?
We use
sort of
airsoft
thing,
guns.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we have like, those like the plastic knives, whatever,
right.
cold steel, like trainer knives, whatever.
Sure.
And those things are great, because we'll do like non-compliant arrest and control stuff, because we carry cuffs and OC spray and things like that. So it's like, we have a method of cuffing people that are compliant, but who's compliant anymore about like, go ahead and throw the cuffs on, bro. Right. Sure. I'll go to jail. So we like, I love being that guy that's like, all right, I'm the one getting handcuffed. Two of you try to come and cuff me, and like just watch the chaos ensue, like taking people's guns out of their belts and hitting them with their magazines and stuff like that. Dude, it's so much fun. But it gets a little wild. So, if you don't get that situational training, and that's kind of my thing.
Can I come be a practice dummy for you guys?
Man,
I would love that, man.
Every
Once
Wednesday
this COVID
night.
shit's over.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I've been itching to get back into and get on the jiu-jitsu mats,
Yeah.
But that sounds even funner, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, it's like, aside from just being like my dream for forever to be like, I want to show up and like learn applicable things,
Right.
It's relevant, it's like,
sure, that's about as real life as it could get, right? If you're actually having somebody that's going to try to hurt you.
Right. 100%. And,
normally they're going to have a weapon. Your normal jiu-jitsu is probably not going to be like, hey, let me put you in a collar choke real quick while you're pulling the trigger on that pistol, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
that's
they don't teach you how to take away somebody's pistol in jiu-jitsu.
No.
You don't get a stripe for that.
I mean, a lot of jiu-jitsu is like being able to close the distance, right? If they have a knife, you don't want to close the distance on somebody like that.
Exactly.
So we go over that kind of stuff too. And it's crazy. It's a little scary because you realize like how bad situations can get, how quickly they can get bad. But I
can't imagine being in a knife fight. That's got to be like, or even pulling a knife to be in a knife fight. You know what I mean? Like,
no thanks.
Yeah,
I'm good.
It's gonna get brutal at that point.
I'm gonna just kick you in the face and run away.
Yeah, and I think that's the exact point, right? Like if you're in a bad situation like that, the best thing that you can do is leave that room so you can pull out of that parking spot without being impeded, right?
Absolutely.
Get away from the situation before you try to engage somebody, because I mean, it's going to go down like the Wild West
for real.
If you're trying to engage somebody, right?
Especially in today's environment where it's just like it's just this chaos mindset. You see all these protests going on and people just getting trampled to death, or people getting yanked out of their cars through their driver's side window that just got shattered. Like that's
not good.
Just avoid it, Yeah. Like I don't ever want to have to use my firearm or any of the skills that I have in self-defense. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a misconception too with like the concealed carry. I don't think people, but if you do draw your weapon and you do use it, you're still going to have to answer in a court of law and explain your situation and go through all that red tape, and it's going to cost you money. Mm-hmm. I mean, thankfully enough, there's some insurances and some companies out there that will help provide legal fees, whatever else you might inquire if you do have to use something. or deadly force, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a way to. I think everybody needs to put that in perspective a little bit more than just I got my concealed carry.
Right.
I'm ready to roll down the street now, and
I know. And then on top of that, it's not just like first pulling your firearm. It's also every round after that first shot, right?
Sure.
Because accuracy is obviously super important, but if some people are of the opinion of like just suppress, like accuracy by volume, which is near and dear to my heart as a machine gunner, but we're not in the military, so
you don't have a belt fed.
No, exactly. So you can't just be like, oh, I'll like empty this magazine so that it gets their heads down. It's like, no, dude, you probably just killed like 3 kids and someone's mom,
right?
And now you have to answer for that.
Well, and I think that's another thing. I brought it up on Brian's podcast, and luckily I've had some people pull me aside that are ex-military and just said, just shooting the shit with some guys they were on a security detail, and we had hours and hours to kill. So we basically imagine this podcast times 10, where you know everything about that person.
That's awesome.
By the time you leave that week, you know. So I was asking them, like, hey, I got firearms. I have one in my bedroom for safety. It's on a biometric safe, all that sort of stuff. And they just put it in perspective a little bit, where my first reaction would be, if somebody's breaking in, which is probably not going to happen, but if somebody's breaking into my home and I have to go get my pistol, and maybe they have a pistol, maybe they don't, maybe I don't know what the situation is. Are you ready? But it's not even, are you ready? There's a line in the sand. You got to think about what's beyond that wall. Is your neighbor right there? Are there police rushing in the door maybe after the guy, right?
Geometry's a fire.
Are your kids in the bedroom?
Yeah. 100%.
There you go.
Having a plan. Yeah, like, I was talking to a couple of my friends about this recently. They were inquiring, the first time gun owners, soon to be, and they were like, hey, what should we think about when we get a firearm? And I was like, geometry's a fire. Have something like a fallback point in your house, right? And they're in an apartment, so it's like usually apartments have these like long hallways to the bedroom and whatnot. So it's like barricade yourself in one room, tell them you have a firearm, whoever's intruding, right? And then let them steal all your shit. As long as they don't breach my bedroom door and you're trying to hurt me, go for it, bro. I have renter's insurance. If not, it's money. I'm not like, I'm all about being aggressive, right? But there's no time. I don't know. You shouldn't be like charging out of your bedroom door with a pistol in hand. Unknown, with an unknown situation in front of you. Who knows where that guy is in your apartment? Guy, girl, whatever, whoever. Multiple people. So it's just
Especially if you got kids,
right.
man. They're probably not going to be sleeping in your bedroom.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something to and go get some training, man. I urge everybody, to like, no matter what you're doing, if you're fly fishing, we just talked about this last week. If you're mushroom hunting, was our last podcast. Hire a guide, hire somebody that's experienced,
right,
or that can give you some sort of experience and confidence, right? Because confidence is going to be a huge thing.
Yeah.
When you're trying to put something down range, right?
Yeah.
I mean, confidence is a huge key to it. But you do some of that sort of training too, like long range pistol.
Yeah.
You do some funner stuff too. That's not all tactical, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, the course that we developed for our long range stuff, it was one of the guys that works at Bristol Cone Wesley and myself developed this long range course because he was a sniper in the Army. So we got together and created like a long range shooting curriculum so that people, whether they want to hunt or they're just getting into precision rifle shooting, they want to compete, things like that. This information is not a secret. We're not like the gatekeepers of this stuff,
Sure.
But it's great to facilitate the learning of that, whether it's getting more ethical kill shots on your game that you're hunting,
which is huge for me. Yeah.
I recently have been talking to a hunter that was he's been hunting his whole life, and he had been using just like a duplex reticle the whole time, and he's like, I held a few inches over the elk's back and I got the shot off, and I was like, what's a few inches? How do you what? Because for me, it's like there's measurements. There's like, this is a mil dot, and you hold this far above, and you dial the elevation, and you hold for your windage, and like, did you think about your windage? No, I just
look down range and
got
pull the trigger. Huh?
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe people do that.
Yeah, I
mean,
don't think that I'm not a rifle hunter. I'm an archery hunter. So
Nice.
all that stuff comes into play,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's a lot of spot and stock because I'm no Cameron Haynes, right? I'm not
Right.
shooting arrows from 160 yards into a heart, right? Like I don't have that sort of time.
Right.
I wish I did, or I wish I was that good and
Yeah.
disciplined at it. It really comes down to discipline.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
that disciplined.
Right.
But yeah, man, I don't know. I think that might be the reason why I feel more comfortable and more ethical with my bow
Because you're that close.
because I'm that close and I know exactly what I'm doing. I put that time in where I don't put that time in with my rifle. It's hard to go to a long range, shooting to go someplace. I got to at least drive an hour,
Right.
and sometimes it's crazy now too. Me and Jeremy went shooting, and we went in some national forest, but it's just like, even that day we went on a middle of a week and it was like a Tuesday or something, wasn't it, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah. We went super early in the morning and there's still people recreating. So it's like,
And dude, we're like people are driving.
yeah, we're
by and
firing
kind
off
we're
rounds,
kind
and
we're
here
kind
comes a whole horse brigade, people
my
on
gosh.
horses. So
Yeah.
it kind of ruined our day,
Yeah.
because I was like, hey, man, I just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we were using a backstop and stuff, but you don't know who's beyond that backstop,
Right.
or if something goes wrong. It's just like, that's the last thing I want. We were just trying to have some fun. But
Yeah, that's tough.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's like, I drive a truck, but I'm not going to just like get behind an 18-wheeler and think I know what I'm doing, right? So the transition from like archery to rifle, right, is how comfortable you are.
sure.
And like just like you were saying earlier, confidence is the key to being successful in these platforms. Well, let me caveat that. You can be confidently wrong too, but so make sure you know what you're doing, but gain confidence
so true.
in some good, practical, efficient training, and for me, I kind of stole a page out of Pat McNamara's book here, but like for me, the criteria I try to meet when I'm looking at training, whether it's on YouTube or it's in person, or you go to a course, you have to drive somewhere, or your buddy is trying to give you some training. Like, first of all, is it safe? And then second of all, is it practical and effective, right? And then finally, is it an amplifier or is it an inhibitor? And if it, hopefully meets the good sides of all those criteria, then, that's probably good training. And,
What was that book that you just mentioned? Or the author?
Pat McNamara. I don't know if he's written some stuff, but he's a former Army guy, Special Forces Army guy, and just like absolute crusher of souls. So yeah, super great guy. And he, he's got a whole like business and everything like that. But yeah, I love his philosophy on a lot of that stuff. So yeah, just try to find something that's safe first and foremost, and effective and practical, and then is it going to amplify your ability or inhibit your ability?
Sure. That makes a lot of
that
sense.
dude's nuts. I know who that is.
Yeah.
Are you a hunter?
Me?
Do you hunt?
On occasion, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't done. Yeah, this dude's like, he's 53.
Look
looks
at this
like
guy.
Oh yeah, I
nuts,
know
dude.
this
I know
guy.
exactly
He's
who
got
he is.
the
Yeah.
T-Max.
he's the badassery podcast
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He's a stud. I know
Savage.
exactly who this guy is.
Yeah.
And he's always doing these offhand like workout,
Yeah.
like just
In his driveway.
with like
hooked
a
up to
center
his
block
truck.
or something.
Yeah.
This dude's a stud.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's been on Rogan a couple
fucking
times
terrifying.
too.
He's awesome.
Holy
I'm horrible
shit.
at remembering
I love
fucking
that guy.
names.
That's all right.
Oh
That was my
God.
problem with picking up women my entire life. Forgot their names. Luckily, my wife didn't care about any of that.
Excellent.
Actually, her name was just burned into my brain forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, super lucky on that end. But no, that dude is a fucking stud, man.
Yeah.
I'm following him on Instagram and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's awesome. So can you explain to me edge weapon
Yeah.
training? What is that? Is that knife training?
Just bladed
Just
stuff,
bladed stuff?
pokey and stabby. So I don't want to limit it to like knife training, because there's also
Sure.
like shanks
Yeah.
that are very relevant. So I've done some courses. I've taken a couple courses with.
Is that something that you teach at Bristol Cone, or is that outside of Bristol Cone?
No, it's outside of
Okay.
Bristol Cone. That's with the security company. So that we just work that into a lot of the training that we do, because there's like the cartel side of things, with edge weapons, and then there's like the Filipino side of things, and then every rabbit hole that you can travel down with every other discipline involved with that. But like I talked about, what's effective, right? And so being able to lab out, like, I have a knife and I'm going to attack you, and you need to figure out how you're going to get out of this, generally speaking, because there's only like a few things that normal people do with knives, and so being able to counteract that, and also being able to know how to use a knife yourself. You shouldn't be. I see so many people that carry like big fixed blades and even just like tactical knives, like whatever. I've never trained on a knife a day in their life,
right?
And it's like, if you pull that out, like, are you not going to cut yourself? Are you sure you're not going to cut yourself with that? Or like, you sure that somebody's not going to use it against you? I stopped.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear is like, I just don't ever get why you would pull a knife. I mean, worst case scenario, and I carry a fixed blade, and the only time I carry a gun is actually when I'm in the backcountry. And it's the fear of mountain lions and bears, right?
100%.
Those are the two things, right?
Yeah, you don't want to go
so
hands on with a
I
knife.
know a mountain lion's not going to take my knife from me and probably stab me with it.
That's a super applicable situation there, right?
Right.
But you see guys like for the example of security guards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys that have these big blades that are sitting on their kit there, and they're accessible too. It's not like it's not hidden, right?
Yeah, that's something that somebody could take off.
Yeah, blades are meant to be felt, not seen.
Right.
So you shouldn't be just like, hey, here's my knife. For a while, I had somebody try to take my gun when I was working on Colfax a while back, and
really,
I wasn't super happy about it, but Safariland for the win. Right, those retention holsters.
Was that
no
concealed?
other way.
Was that concealed?
No, it was out. I was posted up on a sidewalk in front of a shop that I was working at, because they didn't want me inside for whatever reason. There was like this one guy kept coming by every night, drunk, big dude, like 240, native guy, and he was like,
Bobby, was that you?
No, it wasn't me.
No? Oh, okay.
I do frequent dispensaries every once in a while, but it wasn't me.
Okay.
I don't go to the one on Colfax anyways.
Smart. Yeah. He like kept coming by every night.
So I know they have armed guards.
He said, every night he comes by and he's like, I'm going to, give me your gun. And I was like, not tonight, man. And then he'd walk by and whatever. We'd have like 30-minute conversation, then he'd leave. And then one night he was like, tonight's the night. And I was like, okay, go for it. So he tried to take my gun, and I cheese grated his face on one of those shop drop down cages, and
awesome
ran away whimpering. But it was then, I've like flip-flopped on my philosophy of like, oh, should I carry a knife? Should I not carry a knife?
Yeah, but you're lucky, man. I mean, what if you didn't have any sort of training and you're one of these security guards that just gets shuffled out into the world with a pistol?
Right. Yeah. And that, I got super lucky in that specific instance. But I was like, I didn't have a second lethal option. Right, I had my gun, which was obviously preoccupied. So
you didn't have your
I didn't have a knife on
16-inch Bowie blade.
No, wasn't carrying the K-bar. But yeah, then after that, I was like, oh, I should carry a knife, and then I started carrying a knife, and then I was like, recently I've been like, no, I'm not going to carry a knife anymore. That's too easy for somebody to stab me in the kidneys. So yeah, I don't know. It goes back and forth. But you just whatever you're using. Whether it's, whether you're carrying a knife, carrying a gun, whether you're going to go into a fist fight, whether you're going to, elbow somebody in the face, whatever, you have to know what you're doing. You can't just be like, this is a hard part of my body. Let me hit somebody with that. Sure. Right.
There's a lot of things that you can carry too that can deter somebody that's not a weapon, and it will fuck them up, man. Yeah, man. Pardon my language, but.
You ever been sprayed before? OC sprayed?
No.
That's miserable.
No, I don't want to be either.
It's no fun.
I'm going to skip that part of the rolling, right?
That's smart. Yeah. That's very smart.
Actually, but I mean, the reason why you guys get sprayed is so you know how to react if you do, right?
100%. It was totally relevant experience. I just didn't want to do it twice. Sure. And I know there's guys out there who have done it like 6, 7, 12 times, whatever, because they like teach this stuff, or they're just constantly getting sprayed. But yeah, oh man, it's miserable. And you know, in the Marines, they run these courses where you're like, all right, you get sprayed and you got to go fight 5 people, not at the same time. Sometimes it's 3 people at the same time, but and then you got to like arrest or take somebody down and arrest them. And
well, I mean, that's the worst situation too. It's probably not going to be one-on-one if somebody's smart, right?
Yeah, most
strength
likely.
comes in numbers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there's some stuff out there that you can get, like a friend of mine owns Half Face Blades, Andy Arborito. He's an awesome guy, makes these incredible. I got 2 or 3 incredible knives from him. I got a tomahawk, which I'll never use. I don't know for what,
but it's badass.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? And then I have one of the, what is it called? It's called a germ key, right?
Okay.
And it's literally for opening doors and
Mm-hmm.
punching in, but it's not like the cheap one you buy at CVS, right? This thing doubles as like a brass knuckle, or you could literally poke somebody. I think it's got a beer opener on it, but it would fucking hurt, man.
Yeah.
If you jam that in somebody's neck, they're gonna think a couple times before.
Yeah.
Even if they have a weapon with them, just like something like that, or a pin.
Yeah. I carry a steel frame Sharpie for that reason.
Yeah.
It's not going to break, and it's going to be a good deterrent if I start poking people inside their biceps and on the side of their neck.
And what does that cost? $4?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So good little tools to have, especially
that if your kid picks it up,
yeah.
it's not gonna hurt them, right?
Exactly.
Because that's another fear. I got little ones running around, so like,
yeah,
I freak out every once in a while. Like, I carry a pocket knife, but I freak out every once in a while. Like, shit, where did I put that?
Right.
Like, that's a problem.
Not in the wrong hands for sure.
And my kids know what weapons are too, so
that's good.
They know to come get an adult. So I guess my next question is, who's coming to you to get this training? I mean, do you have? I'm sure it's all walks of life, but is it generally your bros or like dudes coming to you, or do you train women? Do you train elderly people? I mean,
yeah, all the above. I can scale up or down to whatever anyone needs, and not in like any kind of condescending manner. I don't mean like if I scale down, like we can work on basics. That's all, because it's foundational, right? You need to understand the basics before you continue to ramp things up and go into the more advanced stuff, right?
And that's one great thing about Bristol Cone too, is if you have a fear of firearms, which you should have, I don't think anybody should not be afraid of them. There's different things that you can do. They have the video course, right? Or the video simulation, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You have simunition bullets. You have different things like that. So you're not training with a live firearm right out of the gate. Yeah.
And yeah, the simulator is excellent. I've done so much instruction just there, starting off with people. Just it's an easy way to get comfortable in that environment. Like some people show up have never held a gun before, so here's a plastic one, right? Here's one that's not going to do any damage. You don't have to be scared of what this is, and then that already puts their mind into the mindset of like, I'm holding something that is a replica, right? And we're about to talk about all the safety and necessary foundational material that you need to understand to effectively use this properly and safely. But they're getting into that situation without like showing up with a live gun and being like doing the the handshake kind of thing, like what is this going to do?
Well, I feel very fortunate because I grew up with not a father, but father figures, my grandfathers and uncles and stuff, and they taught me all that stuff. They were outdoorsmen.
Yeah.
They were hunters. They taught me to respect, a rifle. I think I had a rifle at a very young age. I never had a pistol until I was probably 21, I don't think, is when I owned my first pistol. But I was just always taught to respect it, how to use it, how to store it, where to store it. It was your responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people now, I think that's one gap that is missing in the process of buying a firearm. There should be some sort of initial training that comes on.
Yeah.
After your background check, before you can actually own this, right? Like you got to at least take an hour-long online course or something, right? That tells you the basics.
Yeah. Well, I think it should be taught in like high school. Yeah.
Why not?
And I know that this is super controversial.
Sure.
But even just trying to say like mandatory training for anyone to own a firearm is a controversial topic.
Well, that's when you're stupid and the most vulnerable, right? Your buddy's got one. Right. He wants to show you what he's got.
Exactly.
He's wielding a pistol.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's very frustrating to me as someone who takes this so seriously, and that's not to say that other people don't, but sometimes other people don't, So you get a firearm without knowing the restraints that are involved in that, without knowing the full depth of what you just purchased, right? What you now own. And so I think that mandatory training, however that's implemented, what, to my example, right, for in high schools, right, every single person should know what a firearm looks like, how to operate it, how to at least clear the gun to make it safe.
To clear it. Yeah.
Right.
That's number one,
Yeah.
right?
My wife is not super into guns, and she's coming around because I have a lot, but she doesn't really want to know how to use it, but she's like, yes, I know how to clear that gun, because that's the first and foremost thing. You pick up a firearm, treat every weapon as if it were loaded, right?
Exactly.
So in order to do that, you need to understand that if you pick something up, you need to learn how to check the chamber. You need to learn how to unload that magazine and rack a round out, things like that. And I think it just, it goes a lot deeper from there, but in my opinion, I think that should be just across the board. Everyone should know that. And it's not like
100%.
It's not like an attack on you.
I feel
like
very
your
fortunate
ownership.
that I grew up the way I did, with those influences. And then all of my close friends, we all hunted. So their dads had the same sort of mindset and that sort of thing. But if you grew up in an inner city, good luck, man.
Right. Yeah.
Like you don't have any of that. I mean, we were sporting. I mean, that provided food for our family for the year. We didn't grow up with a lot of money, so
right. And a lot of firearms aren't even allowed in most cities. Not
You're
most,
right.
but a lot of cities, right? So it's
which makes sense. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But like, where would they gain access to even learn about this stuff? Unless it's like a publicly orchestrated thing that they're trying to do. So yeah, I think that.
And I know I'm tooting Bristol Cone's horn here, but that's one thing that they are doing is they're teaching youth those sort of things, and it's not just your typical youth, man.
Right.
It's everybody's welcome, right?
Yeah. And it's awesome. I mean, how we kind of started this off, you were talking about like what demographic I reach, right? It's whoever, it's like people that have never shot to people that are just trying to advance past kind of a plateau that they're at with their shooting ability. So yeah, I think it's awesome to have somewhere you can show up to that's not, you don't walk in the door and it's not condescending,
Sure.
Especially for, like the not PC, but the oddballs that show up, people that you wouldn't expect, right?
Sure.
People that you wouldn't expect to come in and want to have a firearm. Like, it's an inalienable right, man. Like, you should own a firearm. I absolutely support that. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who you
I think we're seeing that this year too, right? Like that's why firearm sales have gone up. I have friends that are so far left, and I'm kind of in the middle, whether it's right or left.
Yeah.
I have friends that are so far left that have called me and said, "Hey, I want to get a gun. What should I buy?"
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, don't buy one. First off, and go someplace like Bristol Cone, get some training.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure out what you want. Figure out what fits your needs, what you're trying to achieve before you even go down that road. Because you're gonna walk out of that store with something, put it in your glove box, or put it underneath your pillow or underneath your bed, and not even know what you're doing. You know? So.
For anyone listening out there, please do not put a gun under your pillow. Dear Lord.
Right. We're not going Scarface here.
And now it's like, what do I want? Whatever's available.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another bad part, right? I mean, because people are just buying whatever's there. So it's like you're buying a high-powered rifle to protect your home or as a protection. That's not.
I know. That's the first retort question I have. People come up and they're like, I want to rent something. What should I rent? Okay, what's your application? Are you looking for concealed carry, home defense, something you can just take to the range and have fun with? Like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And then that hopefully that can get a conversation going on like, hey, this is actually the application that,
and people,
that you have.
Please, if you walk into a store like this and you've never owned a gun, don't pretend like you have.
Yeah.
And you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just be truthful. You're going to get so much more help, right? And that's the great thing about Bristol Cone is you guys are very receptive to take people, to teach them. Yeah. That's what it's about, 100%. Is education.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love coming in and being able to mold people, because if you come in and with this like, oh, I know what I need, and it's like, okay, great, like that, I hope you do. But if you don't, and you keep saying that you do, then we're gonna have a problem, because you're the kind of person that's gonna be like, oh, yeah, it's fine to keep my finger on the trigger when I'm not on my sights. Like, well, actually, it's not. Well, my friend told me. Well, I'm telling you right now that it's not.
You're about to blow your dick off.
Exactly. Exactly. Jeez.
But so I mean, we've covered the gamut on firearms and what you do. What do you do for fun, man?
I shoot. No,
I knew that was coming.
Let me be a little more not basic here. Yeah. So I love rock climbing. I love getting
really?
out.
No
yeah,
shit.
I'm a huge fan of that. I love jiu-jitsu and boxing and stuff like that. And then I don't know, off-roading's fun. I love camping, doing some bushcraft, things like that. Just anything basically outdoors.
You're perfect for the podcast. Then,
perfect. Yeah.
You've been looking for a rock climber, a bushcrafter, a four-wheel drive.
There we go. Yeah.
So it was perfect for the podcast.
Cool, man.
Man, I've really had a good time with you.
Excellent.
We're coming up on time.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming in.
For sure. Thanks for the invite.
And first and foremost, thank you so much for your service, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks to all the men and women that have served and still are serving, man. That's very important to me and important to us here at the Mountainside. Before we let you go, what's next for you? Do you have any schools coming up, any training that people could jump on if they're listening to this thing and are ready to go do some edge training or edge weapons training, do long range pistol or tactical pistol, anything like that?
Yeah. So I mean, we've always got the TAC series running at Bristlecone. You can get routed through Bristlecone to talk to me about any of that kind of stuff, and you can just look up Bristlecone Shooting Training and Retail Center.
Yeah, they're on Instagram. Yep. Do you know their Instagram handle offhand?
I don't.
Jeremy, can you look that up for us so we can give them a shout out?
Yeah,
and then
BristleconeShooting.com. Yeah.
BristleconeShooting.com.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Brian there.
There he
My
is. Look at
buddy
him all
Brian.
respectable and
This is great. Does this show all the trainers or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
so
This is all the instructors we have.
Awesome.
So I took one with Steve and Ponch, and
There's
dude, just like there you are.
Yeah, there it is.
Look at that smile,
Cheesing. One of the instructors here, Steve McGregor, does a situational awareness training. One of the courses I took in the Marine Corps was Combat Hunter, which talks about like tracking and situational awareness and things like that. So Yusuf Badu is the guy that taught that, and then he branched out, started his own company, and does a situational awareness thing. So Steve actually teaches that curriculum. That's another really good course to get in.
Sounds like an awesome course.
Yeah. I mean, it's really relevant for just like
so
every
they
day.
cover the gamut. I mean, how many instructors do they have there? I didn't even know you
A lot.
had that many. Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot.
bunch.
So it's pretty much tailor made to whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
that's great.
Absolutely. But yeah, so
what's their Instagram handle, Jeremy? Too.
Yeah, it's
So we can
Bristlecone_shooting.
Perfect.
There you go.
Awesome. Go follow them. If they want to do the edge weapons training or
you
something
can.
like that.
You
It's
can
like the A-team. If you can find it.
if they deem your cause worthy. Yeah. So you can get in contact with me through Bristlecone. That's probably the easiest. I can give you my email too if that's.
Yeah.
No, don't give that out.
All right.
Don't do that.
We get all
Get a
kinds
bunch
of
of
hate
spam,
mail and stuff. Yeah, we already got haters.
Cool.
So,
All right.
so yeah, don't worry about that. Just contact Bristlecone.
Yeah.
They'll set you up.
Should make a website.
Yeah, you should, man. It was super awesome having you on. We want to
Appreciate
do
it.
this again.
Cool.
And thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
absolutely.
you good back there?
Yeah, dude.
All right, perfect. Josh, you having a good time? Shout out to my buddy Josh Rayburn for coming in tonight and hanging out.
Mike.
Yeah, he's not on mic. All right.
Cool, man.
Kevin, thank you so much,
Thank
man.
you. Yeah,
really
really.
appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And we'll do this again, man. It's
Yes,
been
sir.
fun.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.